From Nintendo dealing with the Yakuza, from dark Nestle advertisement policies, from shell destroying Nigeria, this is the dark history of companies. The Volkswagen. The Volkswagen was founded by the Deutschen Arbeitsfront, or the German Labor Front. The logo of Volkswagen was 5 marks a week so that you may drive. All Germans had to spare 5 marks a week so that they could have access to a brand new car for free. And many Germans agreed. And actually the first logo of the Volkswagen was shaped in the form of a swastika. And many Germans had hopes that they would get their brand new free car as promised by Adolf Hitler. But Volkswagen's destiny would soon change. The designer was a man called Ferdinand Porsche, also known for designing the Porsche car. But at the time he didn't have his own company and was working for the Nazis. And he was also an SS officer. And he would design a car for the German people, but would soon switch to military vehicles, designing the Type 86 Volkswagen and the swimming car for the Volkswagen. And while manufacturing these military vehicles, 80% of Volkswagen's labor were slaves.
I established the Washington Times to fulfill God's desperate desire to save this world.
In this context, the Washington Times was founded in 1982 by a news organization founded by Sun Myung-moon. Sun Myung-moon was born in North Korea in Pyongyang, and he was sentenced to a labor camp, and he was liberated during the Korean War. After liberation, he founded a cult called the Unification Church, and his church was fiercely anti-communist, just like himself. He believed that the world was a battle between the God and devil, and God symbolized democracy, and the devil was communism, and he was this messiah that was leading this battle between God and the devil. In this context, the Washington Times was founded in 1982 by a news organization founded by Sun Myung-moon. The Washington Times bleeded the views of Sun Myung-moon himself. It was fiercely anti-communist. It would support many conservative leaders at that time like Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, George Hartwell Walker Bush, and George W. Bush. It would also go and see Nelson Mandela in 1990s and would try to portray him as a terrorist and a communist. Now today, its views are a little bit less extreme, but they still have promoted very controversial ideas like that climate change is not real, and also promoted conspiracy theories against Barack Obama. In 1974, a very mysterious report appeared called the Baby Killer, and when you would read it, you would read all about Nestle's crime. As the story goes, Nestle in the 1970s went into underdeveloped countries in secret. And they told doctors and nurses that they had to advertise Nestle's baby infant formula if they wanted funding. And these hospitals were very poor and accepted Nestle's offer. But the thing is, Nestle's infant baby formula was not good. It wasn't really better than breastfeeding. And these mothers didn't have money to afford it. But these doctors convinced them that if they didn't use Nestle's baby formula, that their babies would die. Mothers worried bought Nestle's baby formula. And what happened with these baby formula is that they would be very diluted with water because they didn't have enough money to buy a lot of baby formula. And what happened is that these mothers would watch day by day their child getting skinnier and skinnier, and the baby would eventually die, and they would not understand why. The reason why? Nestle's baby formula didn't have enough nutrients, especially when these mothers didn't have enough money and diluted it with a lot of water. And this baby didn't get enough nutrients and would die of hunger. And this caused millions of babies to die. Between 1947 and 1951, Quaker Oats and MIT conducted an experiment on children with disabilities. They went to a school called the Walter A. Reginald School, and it mostly housed people with developmental disabilities. And over there, the children were called feeble-minded, which made Quaker Oats very comfortable with their study. Over there, they would found a science club, and many children would join. When they would join, a form would be sent to the parents saying that their kid has chosen to join the science club. And over there, the kids would be fed very high nutrient diets for free. The parents, of course, were happy, and they signed the form. Now, when these kids would arrive to the science club, they would be fed oatmeal. But this oatmeal was laced with radioactive components, and it was basically radioactive oatmeal. And these kids would eat radioactive oatmeal. The goal of Quaker Oats was to see how minerals are metabolized, and they would use this research as part of their advertisement campaign. And to really have and see these nutrients, they had to be radioactive. And these kids would eat radioactive oatmeal. Nintendo. In the early 18th century, was known for dealing with the Yakuza. At the time, no card companies wanted to manufacture cards because the only cards allowed in Japan was Hanafuda cards. And these cards were all used by the Yakuza. And one company came to light and was willing to deal with the Yakuza, and that was Nintendo, founded by Mr. Yamauchi. He went to Japanese parlors and dealt with the mafia and sold them these types of cards. The money he received, of course, was black money, but he took it anyways and made millions. He was the only company willing to deal with the Yakuza. And their dealing with the Yakuza didn't end there. After their dealing with the Yakuza, they kind of stopped doing business with them and started doing things like making instant rice, selling vacuum cleaners, which all failed. Their next successful business venture was also dealing with the Yakuza. It was called the Love Hotels. These were hotels where you could rent a room for an hour, and Mr. Yamauchi, the director of Nintendo, loved to have love affairs and cheat on his wife in his own hotels. But it wasn't just him that was using these hotels, it was the Yakuza. They held prostitution rings in his hotel, and they often were very rude to patrons. They would smoke in the lobby, and Mr. Yamauchi was very angry and didn't want to deal with that anymore, and he eventually closed down these hotels. He would then go on to more noble ventures like manufacturing toys, then manufacturing arcade machines like Donkey Kong and etc. Shell. Ever since the 1950s, Shell has been in Nigeria and exploiting oil and not giving really much back to the people. But they've done worse than not giving back to the people. In the 1990s, one of Shell's pipelines leaked. It caused massive oil pollution in the water, people didn't have access to clean water, they couldn't farm anymore, and obviously they protested against Shell. What Shell did was not to try to help out the protesters and try to clean out the spill, but instead, papers alleged that they funded the Nigerian military. They paid money to the Nigerian military to shoot and fire at the protesters, killing many. As well, in these firefights, one of Nigeria's most renowned activists for environmental issues was killed and captured and executed by the Nigerian government. Shell has also been seen bragging about how they control the Nigerian government in some of the papers that were leaked in the papers. Thank you very much for watching this video. As you may have seen, this is my virtual character. It was drawn by Poker Does Art as a commission. And thank you very much for watching this video. Click the like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.